Hi everyone, welcome to Byte and Beyond with Uday. In this video, we will learn about Spring Boot validation. You might thinking what is validation? So for example, let's say you want to make sure that the email the email is valid in the request body. For example, user is sending a request and you want to make sure that email should be valid. User cannot send the ABCD XYZ, So you want to make sure that in the request body, whenever the user sends the request, the email should be valid. And you want to handle this automatically. So if the email is invalid, you want to throw an exception. So basically, Spring Boot validation provide that feature out of the box. So it basically whatever field we want to make sure whatever field we want to validate, we can validate easily. If you want to make sure that the first name should not be null, so we can achieve that as well using the Spring Boot validation. So yeah, so let's quickly dive into the practical and let's learn how we can implement validation or yeah, how we can implement validation in our Spring Boot application. So let's jump into the practical. So if you want to try practical uh, side by side with me, then you can go to the GitHub, go to this repo, Spring Boot Practical, and uh, clone this repo. Make sure you are in the main branch, so you will get the source code which is currently available in my IDE. So yeah, you just need to clone this repo and make sure you are in the main branch. That's it, and you are good to start. So let's begin. So our first step, let's see I have created few steps in order to implement validation in our Spring Boot application. So we will go step by step. So first step is add validation dependency. So there is a dependency available in order to enable validation in our Spring Boot application. So what is the dependency? It is Spring Boot starter validation dependency. So if I want to add this dependency, I should go to the Spring IO website. So let me go to the Spring IO. Okay, let me click on this initializer and directly click on this dependency, add dependency and type validation and go to the explore. Okay, and you can see over here there is a Spring Boot starter validation dependency. Okay, so you can add both for the testing purpose. You can add this test validation test dependency as well, but for now we are good to start with this dependency only, Spring Boot starter validation. That's it. Just copy this dependency, switch back to your IDE, open your pom.xml, and inside the dependency section add that dependency. Okay, so you can see I have added this dependency and refresh your Maven project. You can see dependency is started resolving and it got resolved. Perfect. Now let's see what is our next step. So for that, let's go to the our step-by-step guide. Then next step is create employee DTO. Okay, so why we need to create employee DTO? Because we cannot or we should not add validation in the entity. The Let me switch back to the IDE, main Java, and you can see this is our entity. So this entity basically maps with the database. So we should not pollute it. We should not pollute this entity, right? So for that, we need to create DTO. So we should not make any changes in our entity. For that, in order to apply or in order to use validation, we should use the DTO. DTO meaning data transfer object. So let me create new package over here, DTO. Okay, and let me create a new class over here, which is employee DTO. Okay, perfect. So this class would be simple. We will replicate all the fields which are available in our employee entity class. Okay. So in our employee entity, if you see, we have employee ID, first name, last name, email, and big decimal. So let me, copy paste all this field, and let me remove this unwanted annotation because we are not going to map this DTO with the database. Okay, we are going to use validation in this DTO object. So you can see I have added all the fields uh, which were available in the entity class. So now quickly create a getter setter. So I'm creating a getter setter for all of the fields or all of the instance variables. Now create equals and hash code. So our equals and hash code is on the employee ID instance variable. So let's create that as well. That's it. Right. Our DTO is ready. What I have done, what we have done in the DTO, we have added similar fields which were available in the employee entity. We have created the similar fields, and we have created getter setters for it, and we have created the equals and hash code method. Okay. Now this is done. Now let's check the next step. Create a mapper. Okay. So what we are going to do, um, we are going to use this employee DTO in our controller. So if we open this controller, for now you can see we are mapping the request body to the entity directly. So instead of that, what we are going to do is instead of that we will use employee DTO over here. Okay, this employee DTO we will declare the employee DTO over here. So our request body will be mapped with the employee DTO. Okay. So when we have an employee DTO over here, we want to we need something that basically converts employee DTO to employee entity, because in the end our repository will accept the employee entity only. Our repository do not accept the employee DTO. So for that we need something that can help us to convert our DTO class or DTO object to employee entity object. So for that we need to create a mapper. Okay, so let me create a mapper over here. So first of all I will create a new package. Package name would be mapper, and this mapper is for the employee. So I will give a name employee mapper. Okay, yeah, create employee mapper. Okay, so you can see create a mapper to convert between employee DTO and employee to keep layers clean. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So in the employee mapper, there will be two methods. Okay, uh, what that method will be, two entity and two DTO. Two entity will accept the. Let me create side by side so you can know. Okay, public employee, two entity. Yeah, I am getting suggestion by the ID. I'm going to use that. Okay, to make it faster, let me explain what we are doing over here. So this is the method which basically converts the DTO. Let me, remove this inline import. I don't want that. Okay. So this is the first method which basically accepts the DTO and it returns the employee. And what we are doing over here, we are accepting the DTO object. We are checking if it is null, we are returning null. If if it is not null, then we will create an employee entity object and we will map all the fields. We will get all the fields from the DTO and we will set all the fields to the employee entity. So that's what we are doing over here. Similarly, we will create two DTO. Okay. So I again got the suggestion. So over here, two DTO method will accept the entity, employee entity, and it's check if it is returned, we will return null. Otherwise, we will create a DTO and we will get all the data from the entity and we will set all those data in the DTO and we in the end we will return the DTO. So that's what we are doing and this is the job of mapper. Okay, so our third step is also done. Okay, then our fourth step. Okay, but yeah, our fourth step is here. That is correct. But in what I can say, yeah, do one thing. Let's move to the fourth step. Uh, okay. So what fourth step says? Update controller and service. So yeah, what does it mean? Update controller and service. So as I explained over here, for now you can see for the request body we are using employee entity. Okay, so instead of that, we want to use employee DTO. Okay, let me change this as well. Employee DTO. Okay, good. Okay, employee DTO. Let me change this as well. Employee DTO. Okay. Similarly, over here as well. Over here we are returning the employee. Instead of that, we want to return employee DTO for this method as well. You might see this, what I can say, this error, compilation error, but we will fix it in a bit. So hang on. Okay, this is delete. We don't want to make changes in anything in the delete. And then we have a get. And over here, we are returning the employee. Instead of that, we want to return employee DTO. So we have made all the required changes in our controller. So we are good with our controller. Let's move to the service. So this is our service. Okay. Um, Let me select all these employees. Okay. Let me do one thing. Yeah. Let me select all these employees. Okay. And let me select all occurrence. And at the same time, let me do the employee DTO. Let me change all to the employee DTO. Okay. So at the same time, I'm able to change all these fields. I don't need to go one by one. Okay, so this is the interface for our service. Now we need to make similar change in our implementation as well. Okay, so let's move to our implementation. This is our implementation. You can see we are getting override compilation error. Why? Because we need to use employee DTO over here. Because as you know that this employee service IMPL implements this employee service. So as per the interface contract, our employee service IMPAL should be the similar to the employee service, right? The method signature should be the same. So for that, we are good getting the compilation error. So if we make it similar, we won't get the compilation error. So that's what I'm doing over here. Okay. I'm wherever wherever I'm seeing this compilation error, okay, I'm changing it to the employee DTO. That's it. Okay. Okay. I think we are done with our service as well, but you might think we are still, you might thinking that we are still getting the compilation over here. That is right, because this is our repository, right? And this repository basically accept the employee entity and not the DTO. So that is why we are getting the compilation error. So what we are going to do over here is we are going to use our employee mapper. Okay, so let me go to the employee mapper and let me declare this employee mapper as a component. So this is our component, and let me use this. Let me inject, right? Let me inject this employee mapper in my service layer, and let me update this constructor, because till now we were injecting the repository only, but now we need what I can say. Now we need the mapper as well. Okay. I think it looks good to me. But why this employee repository usage? Why it is showing like this? Let me create a proper constructor from the ID. Okay. Now it looks much better. Okay, so I have created constructor to inject these two dependencies, employee repository and the employee mapper. And I'm going to use employee mapper over here. So what I'm going to do, you can see I am having employee DTO over here. So let me change this to employee DTO quickly. Okay. So we have employee DTO over here, and we want to convert this DTO to the employee service. I mean, sorry, employee entity. So for that, we will use to entity method. Okay, which will accept the DTO and it will convert into the entity. Now you can see our compilation error is gone. Okay. Similar, Similarly, we need to update this update method as well. So let's do the same over here. We need to convert DTO to entity. So we will use our mapper, employee mapper to entity. We have a to entity method over here, right? To entity. And one more thing, yeah. So this to entity, we are sending it to repository. Now we want to return DTO, not the entity. So for that, we need to again convert our entity to the DTO. Okay, so for that, employee mapper dot to DTO. Okay, because we are not right now, we are not, returning the entity. We are returning the DTO. So that's why we need to again convert the entity which we are getting from the repository to DTO, right? So that's what we are doing over here by declaring this. Okay, same story over here as well. We are getting entity from the repository and we need to convert it to the DTO. That's it. No rocket science over here. It is pretty simple. Once you are used to this, this topic, you won't feel this is, this is challenging or something. This is pretty straightforward. Okay, let me use the lambda expression over here. Let me use map, and let me use the employee mapper. Where is employee mapper? Employee. Let me type employee mapper if we are not seeing over here. Employee mapper. Okay. Now to DTO. To DTO. That's it. And to list. Okay. Um, okay. Still we are getting some error over here. Make employee DTO to static. No, I don't want to make it static. Okay. What? we will do over here is instead of this employee mapper reference, instead of using the class reference, I will use the variable reference. That's it. Perfect. So yeah, we are using JDK 21, so you don't need to use dot collect and then do the collector dot to list. If you are above, I think JDK 17, or if you are using JDK 17 or above, you can directly say to list. Okay. Okay, I think we have updated our, you know, control and service as well, and we are good to start with the testing. But there is a big but. Before we start this testing, let's go to the DTO. Yeah. Before we, start our testing, we need to add few annotation, because how will Spring Boot knows which fields I want to validate? So I need to tell Spring Boot. So for that, I need to use few annotations. So let me use few annotation. So if we see, let me close unnecessary, unnecessary classes for now, those other tabs, and let me just open the employee DTO and employee entity side by side. Okay. So if you see the first name nullable false, meaning the first name cannot be false. Okay. So for that, what can I do? I can simply use not blank. So the validation dependency basically use the Jakarta validation constraints. So we need to use that other than not blank. So it will make sure that first name cannot be null or empty, right? Okay. Now I want to, yeah, then we have another field, email, right? Last name we don't have, we are not expecting anything, okay, over here. Then we have another field, email. So I want to make sure that my email should be valid. So for that, I just need to use that email annotation from Jakarta validation constraints. Okay. So I'm adding that email validation over here. Then in the end, I want to make sure that minimum salary, okay, the employee minimum salary should be greater than equal to 8,000. The salary, the employee salary should be at least 8,000. So for that, we have decimal mean value annotation. Okay, decimal mean. Okay, and over here we can use value annotation, and I can type 8,000. Okay, 800. Let's keep it simple. Okay, great. There is one more zero. Okay, this looks good to me. Okay, so what we are saying over here to Spring Boot, make sure, hey Spring Boot, make sure that first name cannot be null or empty. Then we are telling Spring Boot validation that hey, Spring Boot validation, please make sure that email should be valid. And over here we are telling, hey, make sure that minimum salary should be at least 8,000. Okay. So that's what we are saying over here, and that's what we are doing. Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me quickly launch my SQL Workbench. Okay. Before we start testing, let me quickly launch my SQL Workbench and drop my database. Okay. This is MySQL. Let me log in. Perfect. Okay. My table name is, my database name is tactical. Let me do the drop schema. I don't need this now. I want to create fresh one. Okay, that's perfect. Now I think we are good to start. Okay, let's start our Spring Boot application. Okay, that's it. That's all we need to do to get started or to implement the validation in our Spring Boot application. There are more complex topic or more advanced topics, but we will cover those topics in the upcoming videos. But for the sake of the simplicity, this is more than enough. So you can see our database has been created, few tables has been created and altered. So we are good to, start with the hands-on. Okay. And yeah, for you guys, I have already created one branch, 11 validation. This is our 11th Spring Boot video. So that's why it is sequence is 11 and topic is validation. So that is why we are using. And this is the, README file if you want to go through. And this is the Postman collection. You just need to click on it and you will be navigate to the my Postman collection and you can use those APIs which I have created. So it is I have made it pretty simple for you guys. Okay, so all steps are completed. Now let's move to the test the application. So let's learn how we can test our application, right? So what you need to do is go to the Postman, and I have already created collection for you as well. So what you can do is you can use this collection to test the APIs. Okay, I already have Postman available in my system, so I will use that. Let me close this one and open it again. Okay, perfect. So you can see this is our request. So let me send one. You can see this is success. User is created. So if I use the get all employees, I should get the employees. I mean at least one employee, Uday Patel. But now let's say I want to store the user John Doe. Okay, for example, John Doe. And let's say John, we want to store John, and by mistake we have typed ABCD in the email field. Now if I send, let's see what happens. Oh, that's strange. Yeah, why we are why the user get persisted? Because we forgot something. What we have forgot? So after adding all this annotation in the DTO, not blank, at the rate email, at the decibel mean, what you need to do is you make sure that over here you use at the rate valid annotation. Okay, so we are saying, we are telling Spring Boot that, hey, Spring Boot, please validate this APIs, or please validate this request bodies, right? So that's what we are saying, and that's what we have forgotten. That is why the user got persisted, right? That user got persisted. So if I try to get all, I will get two users, with this, wrong or invalid email address. So that is not good. So yeah, please make sure that we use this at the rate valid annotation as well in the request body. Okay, and make sure you are using this annotation as well in the DTO. So I think we are good to start, or we are good to verify once again. So I have restarted my application. Let's see now what happened. Okay, our application is up and running. Perfect. And now let's do one thing. If I still try to get the users, I will get two users, Uday and John. And let me let me add new user, which is Harry. Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Okay. Now let's say Harry is trying to store the email address as XYZ. Let's see what happens now. See, 400 bad request, meaning that our system, Spring Boot application, not allowing this email address. But now, if Harry says my email address is XYZ at the rate, let's say JKL, let's say at the rate yahoo.com. Okay. Now, this user will get persisted successfully. See, 201 created. Now, if I try to get all the users, okay, I can see all the users. I mean, Harry Potter and all the users. Now, let's say our new user is, let's say, Emma. Okay, let's say our new user is Emma Watson. Okay, Emma Watson. And let's say her email address is correct, Emma, but let's say her salary, Emma Watson's salary is bit low, 7,000. Okay, now mistakenly Emma has typed 7 instead of 8 or above 8. What happens? See, we are getting bad request. Why? Because in our DTO we have declared that minimum salary should be 8,000. So Spring Boot is checking that out of the box and it is throwing this error. So let's say Emma's salary is 12,000, for example, 12,000, right? And if I want to store this now it is persisted successfully. Now if I try to get, you know, see, Emma is persisted perfectly fine. Now we can do one more thing. Yeah, we have verified this email salary. Now let's verify the first name. Now let's say we have a new user. Let's say Weasley, Ron Weasley, Ron Weasley, and okay. Now Ron Ron is forgot to add his first name over here. So what will happen? See, 400 bad request because Ron is not sending over here. We are saying that first name should not be null or empty. So in our case, we are getting the first name as null. So that is why Spring Boot is throwing 400 bad request, right? So now let's say Ron has added his first name. Sorry, Ron. Okay. Let me add the first name over here. First name, fine. Okay. And let's say Ron has added his first name, but it's empty, right? Let's see what now happens. See, we are still getting bad requests because what we are saying over here, the first name should not be null or empty, right? So that's why we are getting bad request even though we have declared the first name, but it is empty. But now Ron has typed his name. Now it should get persisted. See, now if I try to get all the APIs, see, now we have Ron as well. Same goes for put as well. So if I open put over here, okay, let me use one of the user from here. Let me use Emma over here. Okay, this is our Emma. Now, even if I miss this first name in the put request as well, we were getting the same validation exception, right? Because we have added that at the rate valid annotation in the update field as well. I mean, in the update API as well. Put mapping, you can see put, and we have added valid over here, annotation over here as well. So it works for both post and put. For get and delete, it do not require because in get we are just passing the ID. That's it. If you want to validate this as well, we can do, but it's not necessary. For delete, yeah, we can delete the. We are going to delete user. and over here we are getting the all the users. So we don't need validation for these APIs. But yes, validation is required for post and put because we are making changes in our DB as per the users input. So validation is required in that case. In case of read operation, we usually do not use validation because we are fetching data from our system and returning to the user. So validation usually do not require over there. But whenever there is a write operation, we must validate the user request because we cannot trust user because uh, there are chances there may be there won't be any genuine user. I mean, some user is trying to hack our system. So we should not, blindly trust user inputs. We should, validate their data input. Yeah, we should validate their input. So that's what we are doing over here by, adding this validation. So it is same for all the fields. So if I add the first name and let's say instead of 12,000, I just do 1,000. Okay. So in that case as well, I will get the what I can say. I will get the same exception. So let's try if you want to check. So let's try 1,000. But instead of that, let's say I want to change it to 90,000. Now Emma will be getting updated successfully. Okay. So that's great. So yeah, that is it for this video. And let me know if you have any queries or concern. Please put a comment. I will definitely help you. So thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.